ranks Park University as the top MBA program in the area. Classes begin June 10th at all 4 KC area locations: Parkville, Downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code ClinkScale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
I've been doobed, and you should be next. Yes, Doob. D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. I just had one done of me. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations at their store on 119th Street in La Paloma Plaza near the Cheesecake Factory. Doob, be next.
Our guests are Dr. Timothy Westcott, Associate Professor of History here at Park University and Director of the George S. Robb Center for the Study of the Great War, and Ashlyn Weber, a history major and researcher. Tried to downplay her little title, but, everybody has to grow into their... I don't even have a title, so just chucklehead who talks. I feel kind of dumb even asking this question, but not in this day and age. Is this bill in any way controversial, or has there been any pushback to opening up these type of records again from either people who feel like it's sullying the waters of the, Medal of Honor or anything? Or is it just going to be something that's probably pretty seamless now that it's been introduced?
What we've been able
Quizzical
to do,
looks on both.
I mean, where do I start? It's the benefit of what we've been able to accomplish is both in the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House, the legislation has bipartisan support. For example, in the U.S. Senate, its introducer sponsor was Christopher Van Hollen from Maryland, but his co-sponsor was Senator Roy Blunt from Missouri.
Right.
And then we had Tim Scott from South Carolina, Tammy Duckworth from Illinois, and Richard Blumenthal. On the House side, we've had Representative French Hill from Arkansas, who was primarily engaged in the Henry Johnson awarding of the Medal of Honor.
Right.
It's one reason why he was so supportive. But we also then have Representative Sam Graves of Missouri and then Emanuel Cleaver also of Missouri. So we have across-the-board bipartisan support. Some of these members are also then members of the Armed Services Committee, like Senator Blunt, or belong to the Senate or House Armed Services Committees also. So we've been able to reach out to bipartisan individuals due to their state affiliation, like Senator Duckworth with the members of the 370th infantry regiment, which was almost like the Harlem Hellfighters in some case, very noteworthy for the war. And then some ones that, like, we've had conversations with Representative Sharice Davids, because of one of the groups that we're researching and her background.
Right.
So we've been very careful about our politics, I guess, in some sense, of making sure we keep everyone informed. If there's been any pushback, it was, in some sense, individuals within probably DOD was thinking they were going to have to do all the work.
I see.
And these are this is a 5 to 7 to 7 year,
right,
10 year project. But, the legislation's been pretty clear that we need the authority to sort of what we call waive. There's a time period that you can't be awarded a medal after a war. So that's part of things being waived, is that time constraint, because you're right. We're 100 years. So that'll be waived. And then is somewhat reporting back to DOD. There is a requirement that I will be required to report back to a liaison in DOD every so many months. But all previous systematic reviews, as they're called, the United States government's had to fund. None of the legislation produced is requesting federal appropriations. We're not asking to have any financial support from the federal government, state government,
right,
in this project. So we're hoping that the Department of Defense is very happy with that they don't have to, necessarily fund it.
I wanted to, as we work towards a conclusion here, talk about World War I in general. And first, I'll start with you, Ashlyn. Did you have any real deep interest in World War I before this particular project? And I'm going to ask both of you in case. It seems like World War I is a somewhat underappreciated is the wrong phrase, but undervalued chapter in our history. You can visit on both of those particular questions, but I was curious as to what you might think the reasons are, and my own thought might be that there was such another impactful war so close afterwards that it almost got lost in the wash. And also the United States wasn't involved in the war for a very long time either. Are all these things part of the narrative here?
Yes, and I think especially with that second question, the states not being really affiliated with the war until really the very end. So in my educational history, I don't think I was ever hooked on World War I, but,
right.
I've in the history profession, and I work for the school archivist as well. So it's hard not to get into a subject where we're really working with individuals where you wouldn't learn as much as you can. So I would say I'm more partial to the Civil War personally,
right,
for learning about things. But no, once we got into World War I, it was really a whole nother portion of our history that I really had never focused on before. So it's been more interesting than I can describe for a number of different.
Is it also maybe even because it's been understudied, underappreciated, that maybe it becomes that much more fascinating because maybe we don't know as much as...
I think that's right. I think you're right on that one, because I had no opening up to this period.
Right.
Again, World War II is a very important time in our history. I think a lot of culture as well. So
right.
This country was a lot different once that time it came around. The 40s and the 50s really shaped us in that period. So World War I is kind of an afterthought, I think, in general. But yeah, it's hard not to be hooked on it once you spend so much time on this.
Right.
So I feel bad just because I haven't spent any time on it before. But
right.
I really, this has taught me more than I could probably describe.
Right. In Kansas City, Doctor, is such a impactful area for it, and I think an underappreciated part of our city probably is the World War I museum that we have here. I've been to it a few times and not nearly covered the waterfront there. I think lots of people hardly even know it's there. Now it's gotten a little, I think maybe now the best advocate it has is that the Chiefs are on football football games all the time, national football games, and they almost always show the World War I museum now. Barbecue on one break, World War I museum on the next one, which great, whatever it can be. But I don't think this community probably has embraced what is a wonderful part of the community as much as they should.
And I have somewhat of a story that goes along with that latter comment. I've been engaged with the National War Memorial Museum Memorial probably now 20 years. And last summer, I was going there for either to visit one of the staff members or, maybe looking at books, trying for the research. And because of my engagement, I always have 2 free tickets, admission in my back pocket. And so I'm always inquisitive. So I was walking in, and there was this couple beside me, and I just leaned over and I said, "First time to the museum?" "Yes, first time to the museum." I said, "You're going to have a fascinating time. Make sure you see this, this, and this." And so I said, "Where are you from?" Thinking that they were from out of town.
Right.
Lenexa, Kansas.
Right.
Had never been to the museum before. And, I think the Centennial definitely brought some phenomenal coverage, attention, focus on this beautiful museum. And it definitely it is. And I know, quote unquote, we're post-centennial, but, we still have the Treaty of Versailles. We still have other major events. Most people probably don't realize, for the most part, that we are continuing in the war in a place called Siberia until the 1921.
Right.
So,
you see that date on the Rob thing, and you're saying 1914 to 1921. You're like, what?
Yeah, you're right, because, we're done in one part of Europe, but Wilson is sending American forces into the Siberia Peninsula and so on. So, we're not done.
We're done with the Great War, but we're not done with the little war after the Great War.
But I also think, again, the United States was not in the war very long, because in Europe there's a totally different perspective of the Great War, as they referred to it as. And even if you look at the amount of new scholarship that was written over the last 5 years on the war itself, there wasn't a phenomenal amount of American new scholarship on the war. It's still primarily Europe, naturally. Again, you can go to the battlefield, you can do that, and they have the National Archives in those sites or on those battlefields. So it does. But I always remember, I think if we become somewhat reflective of what is currently going on in the world, the war brought America out of an isolationist perspective.
Right.
In that sense. And if we look at some of the turmoil in Europe just in the last 20, 25 years, and where those occurred, they occurred in nations or areas of the world that were redrawn as post-World War I.
Right.
And I think sometimes we, particularly Americans, 3,000 miles away with the body of water separating us, we don't really think about that. As Benjamin Franklin said in 1776, a month called July, every map maker in the world is waiting for your decision. We were literally redrawing a map of Europe.
Yeah,
and we were part of that. And we really why us?
Good point. Because we're us.
Yeah, because we're us at that time, right?
In that regard, I'm a big cinema buff, and you can think of dozens of classic movies that are made about World War II, and Sergeant York. I can't. You can hardly come up with any other ones besides that. I think that's a reflection in and of itself. There was a lot of boring trench warfare and stuff like that, but still, there's fascinating stories to be told about that as well, but maybe again a reflection of the short term. But I think that even reflects in our popular culture.
Yes, and I think part of that goes.
Got another great World War I movie for me? Got another great World War I.
Well, you have Villanelle about Christmas truce.
Right.
There was the one,
and then Eisenstein. I mean, there's a couple, silent films.